Hello, and it is thankfully so far a fairly easy morning, and I say that by touching all the plants and touching all the wood that I can. At the moment, VM's actually had quite an interesting evening. He doesn't sleep with a fan on, which drowns out all the ambient noise, and he heard leopard roaring around camp this morning and lion as well. So it looks like we're in for a bit of an adventure trying to find some cats this morning. For those of you who missed who I am, it's Stef. We have Jamie and James in the Mara, and I have VM on camera this morning. There you go. And obviously the Herbert is looking after us out there in the bush, keeping the perimeter. We're on quarantine clearings, and what looks to be, last night when we went to sleep, there was some lightning in the area building up over the escarpment. Didn't seem to materialize into anything, which is not uncommon for this particular time of the year. What you get is you get a lot of dust creating static electricity in the air, and you've got a little bit of moisture coming in from the ocean already, and it builds up over the escarpment and it creates some lightning storms without really turning into rain. But we've got some clouds on the horizon. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful sunrise when it finally does come up. Difficult to say if we're going to have a red dawn this morning, which should herald a weather change. There's actually forecast of rain today, can you believe it, for later on this afternoon. And what the old saying is, red sky in the morning is a shepherd's warning. And I wonder if we're going to have a red sky this morning. It's going to be really cool to see once that sun comes up. I don't quite know how far away we are from sunrise. It's been a while since I've seen a sunrise here that wasn't covered in clouds or in a completely different time of the year. So we'll see what time the sun rises this morning. It's been light enough to walk now for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so, and it's allowed us to come out onto quarantine clearings and just get a feel for what's been going on. Haven't heard anything much. No elephant making a noise this morning, no hippo. Those birds that you're hearing there are crowned lapwings. They're these sort of arid area specialists. You can see where they get that name from, that lapping flight that they have. Here they're coming. They're doing a bit of a display this morning. And of course, to accentuate the lapping wings are the colors, those bright alternating bands of black and white that you can see on the wings. And you can see how really effective it is at drawing your attention. And I go back to sitting on the ground. Now, I'm going to be going to go and visit one of my most favorite termite mounds to see if they've opened up their mound. It always heralds the coming summer when termites open up their mound. But while I get there, why don't we go all the way to James Henry in the Masai Mara, who's watching the sunrise.
I thought he was referring to me as his favourite termite mound, and I was going to be slightly insulted by that. Good morning, hello, how are you? Excellent. My name is James Henry, and together we find ourselves here in the Masai Mara with Fergus on camera, that's his hand in silhouette there, going across the lens, and we, of course, are sitting in the Masai Mara as live as Stefan is, and you can talk to us using the hashtag Safari Live, and you can also talk to us on the YouTube chat stream if that makes or floats your boat slightly more than Twitter does, if Twitter can float a boat. Good. Also, we have a special guest on the vehicle today, Siri, a.k.a. Alice, a.k.a. Karen Blixen, dressed today currently in a, resplendent shukka, which is very interesting indeed. Good. Now, we have some remnants of the wildebeest migration here, and of course it is a great misconception that there are no wildebeest in the Masai Mara when the wildebeest go south. There are a few of them that hang around here. Either they are indolent and idle and don't like to go down to the south because they're too lazy to move, or this is just where they happen to live. And there is also apparently something called a very large grouping called the loiter herd that sits about 30,000 strong, normally just north of the Masai Mara and some of the concessions. So I think this might be a remnant of that, or actually more likely a remnant of the actual migration that came through here, spent a bit of time on these plains and then headed away south. As we said yesterday, it is not impossible, given the very strange amount of water that we've had falling on these plains over the last 3 months or so, it's not impossible that those wildebeest could turn around and come back this way. It would be wonderful to be here during a time that is, should we say, well, unusual. For the last 12 years, the wildebeest migration has been fairly consistent, with birth taking place on the southern plains between weeks, 10 and 11? No, between the... when is it? What am I saying? 10 and 12 years they've given birth around Lake Ndutu down south in Tanzania. Okay, we are going to hand you back to Stefan Winterboer, who's managed to find his very favourite termite mound.
Remember, I don't think it would be a problem. I think it would be quite nice. We made it to our favourite termite mound, and as you can see, it's still closed up. And I love this particular termite mound. It's super active. You can come here any time of the year and something will be happening. Here you can see these holes. These are ventilation holes, and holding my hands up above it, there's hot air, similar to a warm oven that is coming out here. Every one of these holes is blasting out air that's roughly 30 degrees centigrade. And it's just the most unbelievably clay oven, woody, musty smell. Oh, it's like a baking oven, like biscuits or something. It's really amazing. And why it's still closed is just testimony to the time of the year that we're in at the moment. So they need to keep the hot air inside, so that the termite mound itself is like a giant air conditioner. There we go. Hold on, I'll finish that story now, just before we miss it. So, red sky in the morning behind a bank of clouds. That is the sun. And just look at that beautiful sunrise. Isn't that just amazing? So coming out of a solid band of clouds that we can't see because it's the same color as the ground, basically. It's rising up above the bush. And red in color. So that heralds, if you look at that saying, red sky in the morning, shepherd's warning, it heralds a change in the weather patterns. And it's going to be quite interesting to see what this afternoon brings, at least anyway. So coming back to the termite mound. So basically, they try and keep the temperature and the humidity stable inside these termite mounds. And the only way that they can do that on a cold winter's day is by covering up the chimney flute, and it then keeps the hot air and the moisture inside. It doesn't lose it as quickly. As summer comes along and the temperature starts to increase and the heat, the ground and the air temperature starts to increase, they will open up this chimney, probably about as wide as this, which will allow the hot air to vent faster out of this chimney, and they can then reduce the temperature. And by wetting and drying certain of the tunnels, they can control quite tightly the moisture and therefore humidity inside the termite mound. And it's all to grow fungus. These are fungus growing termites, and this is how over millions of years they've managed to very efficiently control temperature and humidity. And all modern buildings nowadays that want to be energy efficient in terms of heating and cooling are following the models that have been described by termite mound shape and geometry. Isn't that incredible? Right now though, all these little holes, they're the ones that are blasting out. They're the ones blasting out hot air. And what was amazing is we've had the use of some thermal cameras in the Mara for the last couple of months. And from a distance of about 100 yards or so, we couldn't tell the difference between a termite mound, a hippopotamus or a lion, to be honest. It was just this glowing red mass. We set the sensitivity of the thermal camera to around about 30 degrees, and the termite mounds and the hippopotamus and the lion were all the same color. Can you believe it? So they really do. Nice. But still closed, and so not open just yet. Kathy, you want to know if the termites bother the leopards and the cheetahs when they lie on top of them? I don't think so, Kathy, no. From time to time, you get these foraging parties of termites that are looking for basically anything that they can carry back to the nest. And they'll have soldier termites, but the second you come and disturb them, the soldier termites will wave their mandibles around and will cover the retreat of the rest of the termites. But as soon as those workers have gone, the soldiers follow them inside. And I think if you get a pride of lion, like, or some cubs lying on top of termite mounds like last night, you will have the termites receding away from those areas and possibly coming out somewhere else while they wait for the disturbance to move on or move away. And so no, I don't think that they'll worry too much, Kathy. Michael is just asked an interesting question. You wanted to know if I've had any update on the pot that we found or unearthed in the termite mound that day so long ago now. It was probably close on, 2 years ago now? Michael, nothing more since that day, to be honest with you. And while I have seen Yuri, the owner of this particular reserve, many times since then, from that day to today, we haven't been able to tie a date down to actually go with the elders of this particular area, the residents of this particular area, the ancestral residents, together at the same time to that pot. And it's been one of those things that, I suppose, in the whirlwind that's been Wild Earth and Wild Earth's development over the last couple of months, that has fallen by the wayside, Michael. But keep on reminding me, and it will happen at some point. Coupled with that, I also have a friend of mine, Lee Guttridge, excuse me, who's an author of a lot of books, and one of his books that he's done is on ancestry, especially the Bushmen in this particular area, and I'm sure he would be able to shed some light on it as well. And I know he comes back to the country again in November, hopefully to come and visit. Now, why don't we go and say hello to Jamie Patterson.
Good morning and hello and welcome to another stunning sunrise here in the Masai Mara. We were starting off with some iconic silhouettes of Balanites trees and, of course, just for good measure, a Topi on a termite mound. A quick introduction, a very good morning to all of you. My name is Jamie, and this morning Jandre is on camera with me for the first time in forever. Pretty much forever. I think the last time was Earth Live. So it was a really very long time ago, but I have something really cute to show you. There's a tiny baby Topi quite far across to our left. It's Topi baby season. Where's it gone? I promise you there's a baby Topi. There's the baby Topi. Could even be that same baby Topi that had the lucky escape from one of the Angama lionesses a couple of days ago. Hey, little one, look how scampering and happy you are. Full of youthful energy. So jealous. As it dances and gallops around. Look how fast you can run. It's very impressive. Topi, of course, having... they're actually one of the faster antelope out here, but also the one with the greatest stamina. Look at me, Mum. I can run. And this baby could probably run like that from around about an hour after birth. Oh, there's two baby Topi. My goodness. I'm excited for Topi baby season. I really enjoyed Topi. Rebecca's first baby Topi. I have to tell you, Beckles, that Rebecca's directing this morning. The first baby Topi I saw of this season was being hunted by an Angama lioness. It was a little bit stressful because I think it had been born the night before. And it just looked so tiny and very fragile. And then it moved. And you remind yourself just how precocial they actually are. How well developed those little leggies are. Where'd you go? Gone. Maybe if we're really lucky, because it is Topi birthing season, we might even film a live Topi birth. Can you imagine, Jandre? Ooh, that would be special. Because, of course, in Djuma it's coming up to the time... not yet, actually. It's only just October. My goodness, it's October. But we are coming up to the time when the impala and the wildebeest start to give birth. Oh, there we go. When I first started with the thermal cameras, with the flares that we've been using, I can't remember what I was doing. I was in the middle of a lion hunt, and it was first thing in the morning, and I still had the flare up for some reason, even though I could see what was going on. And there was this giant warm shape that completely confused me until I worked out that I looked up and I realized it was the balloon. I also got very confused by the sun in the thermal imaging, so there you go. The brain doesn't work particularly well after a long night out. Up the balloons go. It's going to be a stunning morning to be in the sky. Don't forget, because this is a live safari, it means that you can send through your questions. Perhaps you'd like to know about the silhouetted vultures looking like something out of the Jungle Book. You can send that through on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Maybe you'd like to know more about baby topies. Perhaps you'd like to know where I'm going. I mean, the truth is, I don't really know. I was trying to beat James to his cheetah, but I think he's beaten me. Linda, you say, if only we had as much energy as the young Topi. I know, Linda. I should have had a second cup of coffee this morning. Imagine being able to scamper and run around like that. Well, plenty to be happy about, I suppose, if you're a baby Topi out here. Or an adult Topi, I guess. It's beautiful. The air is clean. There's plenty of green grass. Don't have to share the green grass with the masses of wildebeest anymore. The grass is short, so you can see the lions coming. It's a good time to be a Topi, all in all. Good time to be in the Mara, full stop. Very pretty. I don't know exactly what James's plans are for the morning or where he's planning on going. I was going to try and beat him to his cheetah, but I'm not entirely sure how he's going to feel about that.
I'm not sure how she's going to beat me to my cheetah. I think we're ahead of her, unless she managed to get up in front of us. It wasn't very nice of her to say that she was going to try and beat me to my cheetah, guessing that I was going to try and find the cheetah. How very nasty of her. Oh well, let's see. Let's see who wins the race. The cheetah yesterday was up there, and so we're just going to cruise up towards the escarpment, and well, maybe, hopefully, one of us will find the cheetah. The Sausage Tree Pride, with whom we were last night, just before we went off air, we found them again, if you were watching yesterday, and they went to sleep, basically, and then we went to sleep as well. We'll just quickly show you some buffalo over that side there. Let me find my binoculars. Can you see them, Fergus? They're those black things there. Well done. See if any of them are being eaten, perhaps by a lion. Very irritated elephants behind us. So we'll see if we can carry on now and find that cheetah up on the escarpment. Now, I believe we're going to go back across to Stef, who's left his very famous or very favourite termite mound. I'm not sure what he's doing now, but oh dear, apparently he's looking for his very favourite bushwalk item. We're now stuck, of course. Bye.
Before we go around the corner, the sunset or sunrise. As we went live there with some movement out here in the bush, you got to be aware of these things. And we're on a road with a beautiful sunrise. It's now turning a sort of golden color behind us as it gets through the murky clouds on the horizon. We're making our way down a road fairly quickly toward the last place that we had those young lions on top of that termite mound last night. We're going to go and look and see where they went from yesterday. Did their moms pick them up? Where they've gone, what's happening? There's a story there we don't know. And with VM having heard lions last night while he was busy sleeping, it makes the most sense to go out there and to go and see what's going on. And the fastest way to get there is, of course, a road or a game path or a riverbed, for that matter. Out here, we're lucky to have this brilliantly efficient and very effective road network system that allows us to access different areas of the reserve very quickly, even on foot. We can do probably about 7 miles an hour if we're really starting to hightail it out there without endangering yourself too much. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get into the area where we last saw these lions, but approaching it from a place that's downwind, of course, because young lions, even if they're still on top of that termite mound, are not going to want to see us. So we want to be quite careful with how we approach these young lions. So right now we've moved into a downwind position, and we're going to approach from some thick bush, which will allow us to sneak up on that termite mound. And using binoculars and the zoom on this camera, we'll be able to show you where they were lying last night before we run in there and decide what they've been doing last night. Fuzzman Sparkles, you want to know what birds were just calling? While in my subconscious memory I was hearing those birds, right now I'm trying to think of what they are. So that call was a crested francolin. And I think what you were hearing was some Birchall's starlings. There's another crested francolin there. So I think what you were hearing was a Birchall's starling, Fuzzman Sparkles, but I didn't quite register while I was busy yakking away there exactly what bird it was. But as we go, if you hear it again, just let me know and I'll shout out whatever bird it is. So this area is going to turn lush and green in the next couple of months. This is one of the areas where water seeps out of the ground and forms the catchment basin for the water that goes to Philemon's Dip and the pump. So the pump house at Philemon's Dip gets its water from the rain that falls and seeps out of the ground in this particular area. And will over time, that's a crested francolin, and will over time, as the winter starts to end, become a super saturated marsh, which would be quite difficult to drive over without getting stuck or creating what we call ruts, where your tires sink into the sand. Here we have our first safari vehicle coming out of the darkness with the tourists on. They've been out since early this morning and formed the network, the support network, which allows all of us over here to basically find what's going on. It's a nice network of people that are connected through skill and experience and radios, trackers, location, and what they experienced last night. And together, very quickly, there'll be a story to tell out here of what animals moved where through the course of the evening. And you'd be surprised at how much movement animals do at nighttime. I know that James is hoping for some cheetah action tonight. Scott was probably looking for lions most of last night, or with lions most of last night. And what we're seeing is periods of inactivity followed by periods of intense movement or intense activity, which can allow them to cover quite big distances and then return in some cases to the same place. And so you wake up in the morning and you think your lions haven't gone anywhere. Meanwhile, they've moved the entire block searching for stuff and have just come back to, a place that they like lying up. So you can see right here is an area that is depressed. And this area in particular, you can see where animals have lain up against the bank there. That would be things like rhino and buffalo and elephant would do that. And it's just testimony to the fact that this is probably the spring head where the Philemon's Dip cut line, drainage line originates from, right where we're standing right here. You can actually see how over the years the sand has migrated and created a valley down south towards the Sand or the Sabi River. And there you can see down there, this is a well-established, very, very old drainage line and seep system. Very cool. Alright, why don't we go and see what Jamie's up to. I think she's a bit upset that James has hijacked her plan for the day, I think.
I'm not upset. Not upset at all. Perhaps it'll be one of those situations where the animal's still where you left it the night before, but I doubt it. I'm not upset. I'm just entirely fair, just James's cheetah. I wasn't really planning on stealing it out from under his nose. In fact, I doubt I could have found it anyway, because I don't know exactly where he was. I've decided instead we're going to go to the Jackal then. We're going to go and see whether or not the little pups are out. Every time I've tried to get back here, it's always been a little bit too late, so it's nice and early still. Maybe, just maybe, we'll get lucky. But I have to confess a secret to all of you. I have to keep it a secret and not tell any of the other guides. And that includes Genre. Genre will have to keep it secret too. But I don't actually remember exactly where the den is. I know where it is on the road. I know roughly which road it's on. And I know roughly kind of what it looked like. But I never ever thought I'd forget exactly which termite mound and exactly which bush it was next to. And then I drove down here the other day looking for it, and I was thinking, I'm sure it was that one, or maybe it was that one. You don't think you'd forget, but because the roads are so long, you kind of tune out and you go into automatic pilot. So when I first saw them, I just happened to see them, and I stopped, and I didn't really make a note of where I was. Somewhere here. No, it's past here. It's the balloon breakfast always stops over here. So somewhere around this area. So the nice thing about living up where we live is that we get all manner of creatures that come past and visit us. And last night the zebra were in town, or at least in the camp. The problem with that is that the zebra have this tendency, I don't know what it is about our particular front doorstep, but they have a tendency to deposit their dung, and I've stepped in it at least on five different occasions this morning included. I was not impressed. Fresh zebra dung. Okay, it could be worse. Could have been a fresh lion or fresh leopard. Fresh zebra is not too bad, but it's the squelch that really makes it that wonderful experience. It's like having a dog and going outside for the first time in the morning. Hey, zebra. I also went running out because I thought they were eating our tomato plant. Brent and I magically have a tomato plant growing next to our tent. I don't know where it came from, but the tomatoes are delicious. I'm just waiting for it to be discovered by some creature. So I went racing out ready to protect our tomato plant, but fortunately the zebra were not interested in that. I think this jackal den is further on. In fact, I know this jackal den is further on. I hope. There's some beautiful zebras in the sunlight, though, to keep you entertained for now, while I try and remember exactly where it is. I'm also worried they might have moved, because I haven't seen them in about a week. I'm trying to understand what Rebecca just said to me, and she threw me slightly for a loop. Sorry? The den is next to the... So Rebecca, what are you talking talking about? Rebecca's asked if they've denned closer to the road for safety. I'm uncertain as to the safety aspects of it. I'm sorry, Rebecca. I have absolutely no idea what you mean. I mean... Okay, all right. Rebecca says she will discuss it. Oof, that sounds serious. She'll discuss it with me when I return. Okay. Let's go find this jackal then. Wait, hold on. James, speaking about Jackal Den as we go in search of it, I was just waiting for, you've got to stop at a zebra crossing. James has got a question about the denning habits of the two different species of jackal. No, in essence, they're exactly the same. They'll utilize the same sort of areas. As far as I know, the development of their pups is almost identical in terms of timing. So, no, there's no major difference. When I found the jackal den the last time, because I didn't actually double check exactly where Taylor had found her jackal den, but when I found it the last time, the adults ran towards the balloon breakfast, possibly for safety reasons, I'm not sure. So in the general vicinity, I'm pretty sure I know where it is. Any more baby Topi? No. Now, I'm going to have to concentrate on remembering exactly where this den site is. I wonder whether or not James's cheetah is, well, where he left it last night.
No, there's no cheetah just yet, but it is a gorgeous morning up here, and I'll just get to the pinnacle of the hill, and then I'll stop and we'll have a look around. Rebecca, just keep an eye on the signal. We are heading quite close to the mountain. Rebecca's directing, by the way. She's the one who is in my ear, giving me instructions on a continual basis. So I've given her one back. Okay, let me just get to the top here and then we'll stop and have a look-see. It's amazing how bright this morning is and how quickly it got bright because there were no clouds at all. I woke up at 4:28, I remember exactly when it was. What can you see, Fergus? Two secretary birds, very nice. And that was because I needed not to find a point in it, I needed to relieve myself. And I walked out of my tent and there was a massive spray of billions of stars, Orion above my head, not a cloud in sight, and that has remained until this morning. There are some secretary birds there. We'll just get to these rocks and then we'll look at them. I don't think I've ever driven up this road. It's really rather special. Gorgeous. And there's some elephants and secretary birds and with any luck a cheetah sitting in the full sun on a rock. Yes? No. I'm just going to stop right next to this rock, Fergus, and then we will film the secretary birds and the elephant and all of the things. Alright, everybody, hold your breath because the diesel fume behind us is about to be blown over the top. Okay, it's gone. Now we can look. Elephants. And secretary birds. Now I must just tell you again that while we look at the elephants, that it is incumbent on me to remind you that secretary birds, despite what some will tell you, are not called such because of the plumes in their heads. which apparently was supposed to look like secretaries. I've never seen a secretary that looks like that, but it in fact comes from the Arabic words sekwatar, which as far as I remember means warrior. But I'm just going to check that little factoid up for you so that you cannot tell me I've been lying to you. One mustn't lie to the guests, at least the viewers, Fergus. Do you agree? One must not lie in general. Very good point. Alice is nodding vigorously from the back of the car. She agrees that lying is poor. Why can I not find this bird? I'll find it. Fear not, everybody. I know that many of you are now full of fear. That I won't find it, but I will. I will. No, that's a stork, Henry. Here it is. Sakretar, an Arabic-based word meaning not warrior, but hunter bird. That is SAQR-ET-TAIR, an Arabic-based word meaning hunter bird. I'm not sure if that is said with any guttural at all. An Arabic-based word meaning hunter bird. Right, we're on to the elephants now, I see. Thank you, Fergus. And the elephants have just come off the escarpment where often they spend their evenings. Not sure why exactly. I imagine being an animal of those proportions, it must be quite difficult to stand on a slope for any length of time, but they don't seem to mind at all. That really is a very pretty little scene, isn't it, with the vastness of the Masai Mara extending off to the south and east. You can also hear a broo-broo calling. Bzzz. I didn't realise we got them here. And you can feel the wind. I must say, it is amazing to me that the amount of, it's almost coastal wind it feels like. Every day there's a wind, and then it dies, and then it comes back, and it's very difficult to explain why it does that, of course. But who can explain the vagaries of the river? At least not the river, the weather. Now, they're picking up little balanites fruits there. I think that's what they're looking for. The one you're looking at isn't. Yes, it is, sorry. It's just moving towards its friends who are doing the same thing. Picking up balanites fruits. Much the same as they would at Djuma. But these ones are slightly smaller, and they don't seem to smell quite as strongly as dried apricots, which, in my opinion, is a great mercy. A dried apricot, not something that I find very delicious. Rebecca, are you still with us? I'm just wondering if we've lost comms entirely. Oh, there she is. Fantastic. Sometimes she just disappears, you know, and you think, well, have I said something that's offended her? And is she ever going to talk to me again? Hello, Patricia. You're wondering if the taller, larger elephant there is a male. No, I think she's a cow. I think she is the mother of that very little one there. See how she's leaning against the trunk? That's quite fun. No, I think she's a cow. It's very difficult to tell from behind, of course. But she's got a fairly flat back. She's got some little ones with her. And I think if we look between her front legs, yes, definitely. She has got large swollen mammary glands, indicating that she is lactating and feeding that little one, and therefore must be a cow. The little one's getting quite playful and naughty. wonder, he's very relaxed on a day like this. One feels like sitting on this rock and having a long relax. Ask me, I wish you hadn't asked me. When you ask me questions like this, I start to become embarrassed by how unable I am to remember facts like how big is an elephant's heart. I'm going to guess, and then I'm going to ask the final control or someone else to tell us. I'm doing something very naughty right now. Oh! I think, ask me, that an elephant's heart is about 16 kilograms, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere between 15 and 18 kilograms, I think. It's quite big. I might be wrong though. What is that? You're joking. Ah, yes. I'm in no danger though. Oh, there's a car coming. I must get off here. That's very naughty. You're not allowed to do that here. Wasn't that wonderful? Oh, I could have sat there all day long. Very pleasant indeed. Let me plug myself back in. Alrighty. Shall we move on from here? Someone else has come looking for the cheetah as well. That was really between 12 and 21 kilograms. There we are. Ooh. Nikki, I'm starting to lose communications here. You've asked about, I think, the difference between Djuma elephants and Mara elephants. Is that correct? And if they're bothered by the wind. Oh no, I think they're much more used to it here, Nikki. Remember that the elephants here, Nikki's just asked if the elephants here are more bothered by the wind than the ones are at Djuma. I'd say they're bothered by it much less. A, because they're used to it and it's here all the time, and B, because the ones at Djuma obviously live in very thick bush. And in the thick bush, it's just a lot more intimidating, whereas here, of course, it's very open. So I don't think the wind makes a difference. It doesn't make a difference to their ability to see predators. Okay, let's head across to Stef in about 10 seconds now, and then we're going to head down into better signal area. See you very shortly.
Where you are sitting right now is the eye view of what those lions had last night. You're on exactly the same termite mound as those 4 Nkuhuma cubs were last night, and that is about the head height of lion. And you can see how effective that position is for those youngsters to see what is coming through the bush around them. It is how they There's fresh action. Excuse the little gremlin there of losing my voice. It's because we're so far away from the camera. And as VM gets closer to me, it should sort itself out. So there's just the limit of the microphone that we have at the moment. But we've got fresh tracks going in both directions here of these cubs, and the trick is to try and decipher which set of tracks are fresher. Now, if you come and have a look over here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here we have lion tracks. Here's the toe of a lion. You can see that round part there, and that's going in this direction. You can see that the pointier part of the toe is heading in this direction. But if we turn around, it's not apparent here. Oh, here's the back of a track here. You can see the same line. There's the 1, 2, 3 portions of the back of the pad. Here's the planter pad here. That line's going in this direction, but fresher than that is the line going in this direction. You can see there's 3 toes there. 1, 2, 3 toes with the back of the pad here. and this is on top of those tracks, and they're going straight back to that termite mound and probably past it. I wouldn't be surprised if we found on a game path on the other side of this termite mound the fact that these lions start to walk in a line. So where lions like to lie down, they're funny things. They'll lie down in an area and they will orientate themselves depending on what they hear or see or feel in that particular space, and then from there they'll head off, almost all in a straight line. And so what we're going to go and look for now is a game path on the other side there. Come with, and let's see if we can confirm where these lions are heading. So there are some fresh tracks that way. The fresher tracks are coming back though, and quite often lions will walk off. They'll go to the toilet around one of these bushes here or down the pathway. They'll react to a noise and then they'll just walk off in a different direction. Ashel, you'd like to know if there's any word on whether the Nkuhuma Pride are all back together. At this point, no. At this point, there's myself and Rexon is in the area here trying to follow up on where these lions went. We've, of course, got Herbie, who's a brilliant tracker as well, who's with us now. And there's some fresh tracks heading in this direction that we've just found now, and now we're going to be walking out and seeing where they went. So from here, they almost always head off in this direction. They sort of peel off in a westerly direction and then make a big loop north, coming back through the northern end of Buffelshoek. Now that's generally speaking. Now on a smaller scale, those cubs were hungry last night. They were left here for a reason, to give the mothers time to go and hunt, and my gut feel tells me that we're going to find the leftovers of a carcass here somewhere, or we'll hear about it on a neighboring property, and that those cubs have had a little bit to eat last night. So here's this game path again, but now on the other side of this termite mound. And what I'll do is keep my eyes open and see if I can show you what these tracks are doing. So they haven't come out over here. You can see that this road has been driven already this morning, which would make tracking it slightly more difficult, but not impossible. Here we go. Jared, Party, you want to know if these lions will sleep on the termite mound until their parents come back? Absolutely they will. And I'll finish that statement here. Here you can see, or now in a bit, Jared, you can see that this is this lion track, very fresh lion track. There's the 1, 2, 3, 4 toes with the back of the pad heading in this direction. And so that's the direction that we're going to be taking. Now, to answer your question there, Jared's Party, lion cubs, basically the rule of thumb is that lion cubs that do not stay put when the mothers tell them to and start to wander around die at a very young age, at a non-reproductive age. And over the course of a couple of generations, you'll find that character trait of the survivalist, the cubs that have this ability to react to body language from their mother that says, with a flick of her tail or her ear or whatever it is, stay put, and do have a much higher chance of reaching sexual maturity, and therefore will father sons and daughters with that character trait. And after many, many generations, you find that things like timidity, or in this particular case, reacting to body languages from parents, becomes something that's almost genetic and is important to the survival of that particular species. And therefore, I would say that yes, if the cubs are being told to sleep on this termite mound, they will not leave it until the mother comes back and fetches them or calls for them. There's a very special call that mother lions give to cubs as well, and they will react to that and go bounding off. I think what we found is the tracks going off in this direction. It's going to be nice to see what's going on here. There is another ranger approaching. I can hear their car coming down the road. And so there will be a few game rangers. Here's an adult lion here. So up and down. We're going to decipher what's going on over here with these tracks. We'll be back with you in a sec. Why don't you go and have a look at Jamie's hippo that is out the water with her.
A hippo out of water that seems frozen for the moment. He just did a very rapid sprint across the road and now has gone and stopped. There we go. Little bit of movement. So the wonderful thing about being in the Mara is we don't actually often see hippos out of water that frequently in South Africa. Well, we do in South Africa, but on Djuma and during our live drives, it's not often that we do, and it's usually towards dark. But out here, it's become an almost regular thing to see them wandering about. And because, of course, it's so open, when we do see them, we can spend a little bit of time with them and really just get an idea of just how massive they are. Now, if we were on Djuma, I would jump out, not right now, obviously, because there's a hippopotamus there. I would jump out and go walk to where he was and stand there so that you could get an idea of the size comparison. Please note for our new viewers that should not be done while the hippo is still in the vicinity. They are quite angry animals at times, or at least they are an animal that chooses the fight option rather than the flight in certain circumstances, especially if you're between them and water. Which is, of course, why they've gained that reputation as being one of the most dangerous animals in Africa. It's not really their fault. It's not that they're more aggressive than anything else. They're certainly one of the larger animals, which, of course, gives them the advantage. But it's also because they live in water, and their safe place is in water, and if you come between them and water, they don't like it, and they would prefer to go through you to get back to the safety of their water point. And of course, human beings build homes and cities, well, cities is a stretch, but certainly villages, towns, and yes, certain cities on the river. Hence why I think it's one of the animals that's responsible for the most deaths of people in Africa. There's lots of them, and they live in rivers, and people generally tend to congregate around water. Washing, cleaning, drinking, whatever it may be. There are certain people that argue, of course, and I think I agree with them, that crocodiles are probably responsible for more deaths than hippopotamus. The problem is that the victims of the crocodile are very seldom found. And we don't know exactly what the statistic is there. Mostly, they're just animals that want to be left in peace, like all creatures out here. Not aggressive or have it in for human beings. They can be terrifying, though. They can be truly terrifying. And you'd think, to look at it, for our new viewers who perhaps haven't seen this, you'd think to look at it that it would be relatively easy to outrun a hippopotamus. I mean, they're rather clumsy looking, they've got relatively stubby legs, and they're quite large. You wouldn't expect them to be able to cover ground in the way that they do, but they're faster than a human being, easily. They're agile, surprisingly agile. They can't jump, so you'd probably be absolutely safe. You would be absolutely safe if you could get out of its reach. But they can traverse very steep banks. There you go, chitty chitty bang bang. No, they are not slow on land. This one is taking a morning stroll, but having seen a hippopotamus run before, and it's something that you will see at some point, if you keep watching our live safaris, you'll see what a hippopotamus is capable of doing. It's actually quite terrifying just how fast they can move. And you know, this whole idea that they can't go up and down slopes or something like that is completely ridiculous, because if you look at the riverbanks that they climb out of and back into, they are more than capable of going up a very steep incline. So yes, hippopotamus are very fast. No, they are not slow. And they can be very scary. And they wander far and wide at night. And generally, if you drive down this road, you'll probably see about 100 hippopotamus easily wandering about. Easily. In pods of 20 grazing around. Just wanted to see what these zebra were looking at. But I think they might just have been looking at the hippo. Because now everybody's relaxed again. Hey guys, did you see something? I don't think so. I think they were just idly watching the hippo wander by. Can hear some baboons screeching off in the distance, but sounds like internal squabbles rather than alarm calls. I think, unfortunately, the wind is going to stop you from hearing what I'm hearing. What do you see, zebras? Nothing. and morning breeze. Kate, you want to know how you tell a zebra's age? You'd have to look at their teeth. That would be the way that you would go about determining exactly how old they are. Obviously, when they're small, you can kind of, by the progression of their growth, as there's an average growth rate for foals in terms of they've actually born a lot bigger than you expect them to be, I find. They've got these very, very long legs to keep up with mum. But you can tell, but once they reach that fully grown stage, it becomes harder and harder. Obviously, the more pristine they look, there's a chance that they're younger, whereas the older zebra have had time to accumulate sort of missing chunks of their ears and so on. But that's not a hard and fast rule, because anything can happen to a young zebra that will give it a scar. So it's difficult to do. The best way would be to examine their teeth. I would highly, highly recommend. I don't care how tame a person says a zebra might be wherever you happen to find yourself. I would highly recommend not examining their teeth, quite frankly. They bite hard. It's sore. There we go. Speaking, of course, of the different ages of the different animals, there is nothing out here that has a more disproportionate foot than a lion cub, and Stef has got some tracks that he's trying to distinguish between.
We've deciphered these tracks now of what happened last night. So those cubs were fetched by a female lioness who took the older cubs north. Not west like we thought, north. And then she went back south, and she went to go fetch the tiny cubs. Look here. That is a lion track. And to give an example, that's my thumbnail next to that lion track. That's a tiny baby. Have a look at the adult. That's a sub-adult. And you can see the big difference. And so mom went to go fetch babies who are now walking back in this direction, and they're going north. They're going to our boundary, which is probably around about 2 miles or so in this direction. So the trick is, we hope that they're this side of the boundary, having killed something here. But the fact that this female has walked with the older cubs that way, then gone back, fetched the babies, and come back this way again, means that all the babies were stashed in the same area yesterday. They were together. Last night when we left the lions, the cubs were looking south, and they were looking south because that's where the rest of their playmates were. They weren't looking north to where mom and aunties were, and they've managed to come. Now, there's definitely a couple of adult females here. Licky, you'd like to know if it's possible to tell how fast an animal is moving just by looking at the tracks. You absolutely can, and let me see if I can show you one here. We'll use this adult female's tracks because it allows us an interesting phenomenon. We're going to use this set of tracks here. So here we have the front foot. It's much bigger than the back foot. 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, and there's the back pad there. Now what's interesting is usually a lion will take its back foot and put it onto the track of its front foot. It's called registering. That is when they're walking at normal pace. So when you're seeing a lion walking down the road at normal pace and you are seeing no front pad, it's completely obliterated by the back pad. It's at normal pace. When the back foot registers slightly in front of the front foot, then you know that lion was walking very fast. And in particular, if the front foot and the back foot are separated, where the back foot is far in front of the front foot, very fast. When the lion is stalking, the front feet will be placed in front of the back feet. So this is a lion that's walking slightly slower than normal, and it's because it's being caught up in the melee of cubs. But if I were to look further down the road and see if I can find you another track, here you have the back foot here, and you have the front foot here, and in this particular case you've got the back foot in front of the front foot, this lion was walking a little bit faster than usual. And it's just because it's on the outside curb, probably trying to catch up with someone in front of it. So it's a lion changing speeds, and that's very typical of young lions. They're boisterous, they'll walk slow and stalk their playmates, and then they'll bound down the road and they'll catch up with someone, and then, oh, they've been left behind, and they'll walk down the road a little bit more. And so it allows us to have a very interesting a snapshot into what they were doing. Obviously, this is a very small sample size. You got a lion walking that side, another adult walking this side, and the cubs are probably going to be on the inside curb. So the lions will always choose, generally speaking, same as leopard, they'll always choose the inside curb of a road to walk on, and it's because it allows them the chance to hide. So if I'm walking on the inside curb of the road right here, and something comes down the road, I can sneak into the bushes and hide behind the bushes. If I was on the outside curb of the road, it would be a different story. I wouldn't be as able to hide. I'd be left in the open. There'd be no bushes between me and you. So generally speaking, cats, especially the smaller ones, more timid cats, leopard, genet, African wildcat, serval, caracal, and lion cubs will always tend to walk on the inside curve of the road. Izzy, you'd like to know what's my favorite thing to track or talk about on bushwalk. Izzy, those are two completely different things. I like tracking lions. Tracking prides of lions is easy for my particular skill level at tracking, which isn't that great. So it allows me to practice my tracking skills on lots of different footprints that leave a nice track to follow. What I like talking about on bushwalk is insects at the moment. So I enjoy insects and insect behavior. So those are two different things that I enjoy doing more than they're not the same thing basically. But tracking lions is pretty exciting. You don't always end up finding them, and it can be very boring for you or a casual person to watch, because basically you're just following a bunch of holes in the sand. And okay, looks like Herbie is calling us. Come. Okay, so Herbie was walking in front of us just to give us some time to talk, and we may be lucky, and we've caught up with these lions. So, I can see something in the road. Come stand this side. It's not a lion. It's a spotted hyena. Look there. So let's just go down a little bit. So we've got a spotted hyena, not the lions, coming down. I've broken our profile a little bit by hunkering down. The chance of that this hyena saw us here or has heard us is very, very good. These are super predators, just like lions are. Let's see when this hyena finally realizes we're here. It's just seen us, it's seen the profile now. Now, obviously spotted hyenas are not given the same, I suppose, characters as what lions are. And believe me, that as dangerous as what a spotted hyena is in a camp, out in the bush they're not that bad. What is dangerous at the moment is we've got a lioness with tiny cubs. She's not going to move anywhere. She's going to stand her ground, and we've got to be very careful about walking into her. It looks like this hyena is trailing these lion, which is also not that unexpected. This hyena will be looking for any scraps, and given the chance will kill lion cubs. You can see that very distinctive slope back. Hyena moving down the road now. Ears pricked forward, doesn't look too concerned. And off it goes into the grass. That was a pretty cool sighting, eh? Definitely not what you usually expect on these bushwalks, is in the sunlight walking into a hyena. has moved off now into the grass and will allow us to keep on tracking, which is quite nice. So, what we're going to do, there's a hyena walking off down there. Tammy, you wanted to know if the cats can smell us. Tammy, yes, they can, but they can only smell us when we are upwind of them. So what we use is an ash bag to determine wind directions, filled with very fine ash. And as you can see, as I shake out the ash, it blows in the wind. Now, if you can see that the ash is busy blowing towards you, right? If I was standing this side of the ash bag, I wouldn't be able to smell it. Alright, if a lion was standing on this side of this ash bag, you wouldn't be able to smell anything. The lion has to be standing downwind. In this particular case, Tammy, you wanted to know if the hyena could smell us. If I look at the wind direction, no. The wind direction was blowing this way, across the road. That hyena was standing in front of us, and because of that, the hyena could not smell us. But we were speaking quite loud as we were coming down the road here, and hyenas have got incredibly good hearing. And I think that hyena did hear us, but it was smelling something in the grass there. And I think that the inquisitiveness of the hyena wanting to smell whatever it was in the grass overwhelmed his normal timidity at hearing some people in the bush. Don't forget, this particular reserve, we've got a lot of people that are walking around and working in it. Scientists and game rangers and trackers and camp staff. So I don't think that it's too worried about camp staff and voices. Now, Christina, you want to know if hyena will attack humans, and Christina, yes, hyenas have bitten and killed many people. In actual fact, I personally believe that in a camp environment, a hyena is the most dangerous animal. It's more dangerous than a lion, more dangerous than a leopard, more dangerous than an elephant or a buffalo, because they are absolutely not scared to just walk into a camp. So last night, for instance, there was a hyena walking around where we sleep. If your door had blown open slightly, or you didn't close it properly, or you had fallen asleep on your bed with your door open, there's no doubt in my mind that a hyena will come and bite you. They are brazen when it comes down to walking into a camp. You walk into a hyena in the bush, they always look at you and then they move off. Definitely different to how a lion reacts to you or how an elephant reacts to you. But lions and elephant and even things like hippo don't walk into camp. They won't walk into your bedroom unless really, they're really incentivized to do so. Whereas hyena will, and they'll do it for very little. In other words, without being prompted by anything, no food around, they'll just come and inspect the place. So, yes, in answer to your question. However, out in the bush, which is what I think you were going to ask, no. Unless you're falling asleep underneath a tree and a hyena is in the area, you're actually quite safe from a hyena out here during the daylight. Right, let's carry on looking for these lions. Their tracks are still all walking down the road. And so a good idea is not to get locked down on looking at your feet, which is the easiest thing to do. You've got to look up, and the trick is there to keep your head looking about 20 or 30 yards in front of you and keep your ears open, because lions will rumble a low warning growl. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and see if we can find out exactly where these cats have gone by picking up the pace a little bit. We're going to send you over to James, who's still looking for those cheetah he set out to find.
I'm looking at my feet as well, everybody, because I can. I'm in a car. I don't have to look anywhere other than my feet. Very good. Now, what we have done is pretty much given up on the cheetah. She's moved off somewhere into an invisible part of the reserve. We're winding our way down towards the Mara River, and I'm going to see now if we can't find one of our favourite characters, of course, Scarface the lion. We walked, or we didn't walk, we drove through this enormous sort of plain area here. Lots of elephants around, a couple of giraffe. And there, standing on a termite mound in all his magnificence, what Craig Batman Zammit refers to as the urinal antelope. There it is. Can you see it there, Fergus? There is a waterbuck. And if you're wondering, why Craig has chosen to call it such a sort of, shall we say, unpleasant thing. Well, you know, the ones at Djuma have got the loo seat that is emblazoned on their buttocks. Craig feels that this one, the Defassa Waterbuck, has got a urinal on its bottom. There it is. Excellent. It's also got a couple of oxpicars eating off some ticks, and he's doing a bit of a display. That's why he's standing up there. I suppose it does give him a bit of vantage as well, but he's also doing a display, trying to show all the others around here that he's big and strong, and this is his place. And of course, what I always like in the morning is a bit of backlit urine stream. I always find that is a very attractive thing to see in the mornings. He's marking his territory there, of course. He's not just sort of relieving himself after a big night out. Well done. Well, there's going to be no question as to who owns that piece of land. And just down below him is a very attractive little marsh area where we often see lots of these Defassa Waterbuck. Fairly surprising, I suppose, behaviour. There, what's he doing now? Can you try and zoom in on him a bit, Ferg? I don't know, is he scraping his undercarriage on something? No? There we go. That's marvellous. Okay. Alrighty, let's head across to Jamie. She apparently has got the most feared camp animal in the universe walking down towards her. Mercifully, however, she is not in a camp.
Thank goodness I'm not in a camp. Whatever would we do if we were in a camp? I don't think you're that scary. As long as people close their tents, hey? You're not going to injure anybody unless people are silly. But absolutely, Stef and James are correct. Hyenas are not to be taken lightly, or the threat of hyenas is not to be taken lightly if you're camping out in the bush. You should never, ever, ever sleep out in the open. And we all know people with stories of having done that exact thing and found themselves on the receiving end of the powerful jaws of the hyena. I will say, I don't quite know what this North Clan is eating, but every time I see them, they are so full and look so contented. And this is one of their favorite spots, and I think you can see why. The attractive pea green of the water, plenty of places to wallow, shade, sun, depending on your preference. But I think it's the spa-like quality of the water that really makes it. I bet that tastes delicious. Well, yuck. Yes, absolutely, Nikki B. The hyena's intelligence does play into making it a dangerous animal because they're problem solvers and they learn. And unfortunately, people have really, really contributed to the fact that they've become camp menaces. Not so much, obviously, in our camp, but around places like the Kruger where people feed them their leftover braai meat and their bones and their chops. It is very frustrating to witness because, of course, the hyenas learn. They can learn how to get into certain areas. If food is left out in the open, they can figure out ways of getting to it, even if it's out of their reach. So, yes, their intelligence does play a role because it's also one of the things that powers their curiosity. And they're very, very curious animals. And whilst as human beings, we would explore something new with our hands, they don't have hands, obviously, so they use their jaws. And that has unfortunate consequences if the thing that they're exploring happens to be somebody's face or limb. So yes, it does factor in very much into the dangers that hyenas pose to those people, the unwary. Let's put it that way in camp. But if I were to get out now, this hyena would be hightailing it so quickly, it would be a little cloud of dust. And I mean, we've seen hyenas run before. They run as if their bottoms are trying to overtake their heads. I don't know whether any of you were watching, I'm sure you were, some of you were watching the TV show on the Saturday morning, or Friday night for some of you. But Prince Hyena that ran into the termite mound had me chuckling for about 2 hours the night before. He sent it straight to me, the video of it running into the termite mound. Oh, you silly things. And even in a camp at night, if you were to rush at a hyena, and it would get up and run away immediately. So it's not like a lion at night that will lose its fear of human beings. A hyena at night is still scared of people. You just don't want to be asleep when it comes calling. The thirst is quenched. I was hoping, actually, that the rest of the hyenas would be around here. But they are not. They are hidden away. Now, of course, you know that Stef has been working very hard this morning, and he's achieved something that is always very, very exciting when you're on foot.
We've got those lions just walking around out there. They just were sleeping on the side of this timber mound and have just left there. Now, lions on foot, especially with cubs, you've got to watch out for. You don't want to pressurize a mom into thinking that she's got no options but to walk away. So they stood up on the side of the timber mound. They've just walked away there. Let's see if we can get another brief glimpse. Come with me. We're going to be safe, stay in the open. You don't want to hide. Let these lions think that you're trying to hunt them at all. It's 100% safe where we are now, as long as we just respect their space. See if we can get you into a position where we can have another brief glimpse at them. Lions generally, there, I can see one walking there. They're just walking away from us through the thickets there. Let's go into the open a bit here. I don't want to be behind any thick cover like this. Now, they may shout at us a little bit. What we'll do is just get into this open patch here. Sorry, I just had to take my earphone out. Okay, come. There's a lion there. They're just keeping about 100 yards or so in front of us, which is typical of lion. What will happen is they'll go into some thick bush and then okay, there's a female looking at us, Roger. Can you see her head? See the green quarry? Just to the right of that. So come out a little bit.
I've got it.
Ah, there we go.
Very obscure.
So that's the obscured vision of a lion. So you're not going to get, just got a face here. If you come left a little bit, you'll have a face underneath that green quarry. The green bush in the background. Just the ears pricked up watching us. The moment the wind is blowing from us, from them to us, so we're not overwhelming them with scent, which is a good thing. Let's go on top of the termite mound and see if we can see anything else here. We're not going to push them any further. We're going to call in vehicles. What you don't want to do is you don't want to create against that tree is the rest of them there standing there. What you don't want to do is create this feeling with lions that whenever they see people, that's a negative thing. What you want to try and do is always make sure that the lions are comfortable. And as you can see, those lions are lying down there. That is the thick bush that I was talking about. Mom has set up a perimeter there. She won't be going anywhere. So this is how comfortable lions are on foot in the Sabi sands today with this pride under these conditions. It's not the same every time. Now, just to remind you, this is live. This is as it's happening now. And we're standing on foot here. And we've just tracked them down. And very safe at the moment. The reason for that is that you can see that those are youngsters. They're not running away from us, leaving mom between us and them. If we got any closer, we definitely elicit some sort of negative reaction. But right now, we can enjoy these animals on foot, which, let me tell you, is one of the most special things to do. Close to these great cats, but not in competition with them. You can see them all just getting close to one another there. Dina, you said that this is spectacular. I must agree with you, Dina. I'm so happy that you can actually feel the excitement that we're feeling on foot to these animals, but more so I want to convey the relaxed nature of these animals. It's not always the case. Lions sometimes can look so panicked when you bump into them on foot. In this case, we've just got a bunch of lions watching us as much as what we're watching them, but without them feeling threatened. There's no body language there that says that we threatened them. Testimony to Herbert's great tracking skills that we ended up finding them. As we came around a tree, we saw one lion dart away from this termite mound we're now standing next to. They moved off about 50 to 60 yards away from us now. And what we're going to do now is call in a vehicle and they will come and enjoy these lions. We won't get any closer. Lions on foot, especially with young cubs like we think they've got, are very, very dangerous. And the reason for that is young cubs have a tendency to go for cover. And welcome to all our new viewers, and just to let you know, we are on foot here at Djuma Private Game Reserve. We've been on a bushwalk this morning. We've been tracking a pride of lions and we've just found them. They're lying on a termite mound watching us on that side. You can just see there a bunch of young lions. You can see their ears are pricked up towards us. Now, just as a reminder, this is live right now. You're watching this with us out of the Kruger National Park and Djuma Private Game Reserve in South Africa. These young lions, there are 14 of them in this particular pride with 5 adult females, were just enjoying the sunshine here in this early morning. It's just gone just after 7 o'clock. And they've probably been walking around most of the night hunting. We found their tracks a little bit earlier based on where we left them yesterday, and walked in on them on foot. They got a bit of a fright as we arrived and moved off, but are feeling very secure in that thick bush over there, and just testimony to how conservation in this area works. Non-intrusive or non-invasive conservation. And these lions, they feel threatened, obviously enough to create some space, but not threatened enough to run away, and allowing us the pleasure of viewing them on foot and virtually undisturbed. We're not supported by any vehicles or helicopters or anything, and as you can see from that young lion's very relaxed walk in front of the rest of the pride, they know where we are, but they don't feel threatened by us whatsoever, and that's a good thing. Now, I don't see very many adult lions at the moment. I think that there's a good chance that that's made up perhaps of one adult lion and the rest are cubs. Cubs on foot with adult lions tend to be a bit more nervous. That's because moms, and rightly so, are more protective. I think what's happened is you probably find that the rest of the pride is off hunting somewhere and they've left these youngsters here. There were tracks of 2 adult females. That's what led us in here. and there's a good chance that they're either somewhere in the vicinity or off hunting somewhere else at the moment. Now, what are we going to do? We're not going to obviously go closer. That will create an aggressive response from any adult lions that are there. But also, we want to try and foster this relationship, for lack of a better word, with these cats. We track to a distance where we see one another. They moved away and created some distance. We will not get closer than this distance. If anything, we'll stay in the open and back away in the next couple of minutes. And what we'll do is, using radios, we'll call in our comrades. Now, Kerry, you wanted to know what bird is busy calling in the background. There's two birds. There's a woodpecker bashing his face against a tree close by, and then that whistling noise is an emerald spotted wood dove, or green spot dove, calling in a tree just above where those lions are sitting at the moment. It's actually quite amazing, Kerry, that you can hear that. That bird is probably about 30 yards or so away. Now I'm going to lift up my binoculars and just scan the area in front. I'd like to see, although we tracked two adult females in here, what you're busy looking at there are just cubs. And very relaxed at the moment. Mary, you'd like to know if they get curious, will they come towards us? Mary, yes. It's not uncommon for lions to follow people on foot. For years and years, lions in the Kruger National Park actually hunted human beings. There were lots of man-eaters way up into the 2000s, even in the Kruger Park. It wasn't uncommon for you to have a lion trailing you for almost that entire time. Right now, with us being in the open, it's unlikely that these animals will come closer to us, that these lions will come closer to us, with the exception of an adult female, which they sometimes can circle around and come at you from unexpected directions. So I have my head on a swivel at the moment and looking in all the gaps. We've got a termite mound right next to us, so it's offering us good safety. And we're not hiding behind a tree. Brenda, you'd like to know what I do if they charge us. Well, Brenda, when something charges at you, basically what they're trying to do is get you to create some space. And so all I do is stop the charge by shouting back at the lions. You lift your hands up, you try and look as intimidating as possible, and as soon as that lion looks like it's slowing down, you create space. So creating space in the open is what I do, while making a lot of noise, screaming and shouting. But right now we don't need to do that. These lions are super relaxed with us. In actual fact, it's one of the best lion sightings on foot I've had in recent history. Amin, you'd like to know what country we're in at the moment? Amin, we're in South Africa, right at the tip of the African continent. We are in the Kruger National Park, one of Africa's largest super parks and the largest national park in this country. And we are on its western side, about in the central region on the western side. And we've been tracking these lions for most of the morning, and we've just found them on foot now. The reason why we're on foot tracking these lions is that none of these lions are collared in any way or have any GPS tracking dots or anything like that. We do it old school out here. We follow their footprints and interpret their behavior using the signs that they leave in their passage. And we managed to find them on foot after about an hour. Now, Christine, you want to know how many lions there are here? Christine, I don't actually know. There's a couple of youngsters here. I saw at least 3 youngsters, not the tiniest cubs. Their tracks suggest that there's newborn cubs here somewhere. And then there's these basically teenagers that we're having a look at there. There's definitely more than 5 or 6, and probably close to about 9 or 10, I would imagine. It's quite difficult to actually count lions in the bush like this. They tend to spread out underneath thick cover. And I think we're looking at about 10 lions now. I can see about 5 just in that picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I've watched another 3 walk past and lie down underneath them. Wow, that's awesome. Lions on foot. Chris, you say it's not the ones that you can see that worry you, it's the ones that you don't see. And Chris, I must echo your thoughts there down to the letter. It's not the lions that you can see that's the worry, it's the ones that you can't see. Absolutely. And what you don't want is a lion sneaking up from behind you and giving you a fright. Now, there's a misconception out there that lions will kill you at first sight and that they are deadly dangerous, but to be honest with you, it is possible to live in harmony with these massive cats, as what we are doing right now is showing you. The unfortunate thing is it's taken us centuries to get to this particular state where man and beast are in a type of harmony with one another. Listen to those birds busy alarm calling at the lions. It's a flock of birds that are alarm calling at the lions. Carla, you want to know if the mother lion would feel threatened by us? She absolutely would. As I walked up to this particular position, this is the safest position for us to be right now. It's right next to a termite mound in the open. I was listening to her growling. There was a small growl that she gave, and then she moved off. I think the adult lioness is actually lying on the other side of us at the moment. That was not a good idea. I just needed to take my earpiece out to listen to what was going on over here. The lions are now moving off. There's a good chance that the adult lioness moved off and it doesn't see us at the moment. Now, Charlie, you want to know if the lions are used to the safari vehicles in this area? Yes, they are used to the safari vehicles. For about 60 years now, there's been safari vehicles in this area, and these lions, generation upon generation of them, will have seen safari vehicles. We've got no vehicle close to us at the moment. We're in the middle of a block of bush surrounded by some roads, and these lions are lying up in the middle of the thick stuff, in this middle of this block. We've got no vehicles to us now, but what we will do is we have a radio. We will call in our comrades in a couple of minutes and let them come and have a look at this sighting, giving us a chance to reverse out of here and leave these lions, which I think we're going to do before they move off too much. So what we're going to do is, using this termite mound as some cover, we're going to step away lightly and slowly, and we're going to leave these lions just for now, giving us some time to create some distance. So we're going to show them that we're walking away by creating a little bit of distance in the open, and we're going to de-stress this particular sighting by creating some space, and then we're going to call in, bless you, Vian, we're going to call in some of our other comrades. Alright, so for our Facebook viewers, I just want to say thank you for joining us on foot to these lions in the middle of Africa. We'll see you again soon. So what we're going to do at the moment is call in Rex, and he's circling this area also looking for these lions. We're going to call him in, and in the meantime we're going to send you over to Scott up in the Mara.
Hello everyone, and we have decided to join one of the final migrating herds as they head south towards Tanzania. They were running quite quickly until you joined us, and then they slowed down. My name's Scott, it's great to have you on board. and I'm teamed up for the first time ever with Craig on camera. So expect great things during our debut as a couple doing these live safaris. We are in search of, in the hope of finding the Musketeer Coalition of 5 male cheetah. I haven't got any intelligence on their whereabouts for the last few days, but I've spoken to some of the people who know the ins and outs of where they may be, and I'm just hoping to get some information back from them regarding where they might be. I'm sure a lot of you will be excited to see them. Those of you who know them, for those of you who have yet to meet the Musketeer Coalition, I hope we find them for you, because they are an epic team of 5 male cheetah that we've been lucky enough to spend quite a lot of time with. Like I said, these wildebeests were all running in a line, following one another. There's quite a few of them, probably about 100 or 200 in total, but they're all dotted out in a long stream. A few vultures floating around there in the background, starting their morning looking for some snacks. Beautiful. Some Thompson's gazelle. Marvelous. Now, if any of you would like to chat with us, ask any questions. Oh, some hyena there in the background. And nice one, Craig. So like I said, if you'd like to ask us any questions, tell Craig how good his camera work is, or tell me I'm talking nonsense, you can do that by using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. And we do love to hear from you. We know there's a lot of silent viewers hiding from us out there. And just the odd little hello would be wonderful from you guys, just so that we know you're there. A beautiful morning. It is quite windy. Oh, it sounds like James has got some good action. Why don't you go see what it is?
Well, we've got something interesting. We've got 2 jackals trotting past the Thompson's gazelle herd here, quite close to Main North Crossing, which is where we're going now. And there's an interesting interaction, because the gazelles did not react at all to those jackal. And you know, if I hadn't seen them standing right next to each other, I would have said that proportionately the jackals were much bigger compared with the gazelles. I mean, I know they were small. They are smaller, but I would have thought that they were more of a size. And they are so much smaller than these little Tommies. Now, for some reason this year, the great swathe of Thompson's gazelles that's supposed to move with the migration herds did not come up here. And I'm still wondering if they aren't going to. Because to watch them try and cross the river is quite something. They're not very good swimmers, and the crocodiles know that. Now, if I can ask you, Ferg, to go... I'm just trying to look where you're looking. Yeah, just a little bit to the left. There's one with its backside facing us. Keep going a little. I think it's that one. Yeah, it is. Just zoom in there. She is about to pop. Yeah, that's the one. No, not that one. That one. No, it's not that one either. Hang on, I've lost it again. Anyway, a lot of these ewes, I think, are about to produce their little youngsters. Now they've had their morning graze, so they're going to sit down and re-have it. They're going to regurgitate it and ruminate for the next little while.